Should banning TikTok be allowed in a country that values freedom? A lot of people pushed for the banning of TikTok in the name of national security because, oh, China's scary. They're definitely not monitoring us in other avenues besides TikTok. You can't even use CapCut anymore because that's a TikTok product, ByteDance product, but you can use other Chinese apps like Xiaohongshu, Little Red Book, or Little Red Note, and so people are migrating there. Anyway, today I'm joined by ChatGPT, and we're going to talk about it and debate the nuances of this conversation. Hello, ChatGPT, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, ready when you are.
Oh, you're using a female voice today.
That's interesting. My voice settings can change depending on the platform or device you're using. If you'd prefer a different tone, let me know.
No, it's all good. I liked it. I think it's cool. Are you ready to talk to me about the TikTok ban? I want to know more about like what you think, and all of the information can kind of crystallize together about, well, so what's going on here? Why did the American government, or the American people indeed, feel the need to ban TikTok? What do you think that was?
The TikTok ban is mainly driven by concerns over national security and data privacy. US lawmakers and intelligence agencies worry that TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, could be used to collect vast amounts of user data and potentially share it with the Chinese government. This concern stems from China's national security laws, which could compel companies to hand over data if requested. From the government's perspective, TikTok's access to personal data like location, browsing habits, and even biometric information poses a risk, especially when considering its widespread influence among young people. Officials argue that this could lead to data misuse, propaganda, or even influence operations. On the flip side, many Americans see the ban as an overreach and an attack on freedom of expression. TikTok has become a major platform for creativity, business, and social connection, and critics argue that banning it contradicts core American values like free speech and the open internet. Some believe the ban is politically motivated or even protectionist, favoring US based tech companies. So, in a way, it's a classic freedom versus security debate. Do you think people are more concerned about their privacy, or do they just want to keep using their favorite app without government interference?
I think, of course, they just want to keep using their favorite app without government interference, because I think that one of America's bedrock values is to have freedom. And so these people want to be able to use, especially after people get accustomed to doing something a certain way and then you ask them to change. I don't really see that going over very well, especially in America.
Exactly. Once people get used to something, taking it away feels like an attack on their personal freedom, which is a huge part of American culture. The idea of choice and independence runs deep. So when the government steps in and says you can't use this app, it feels restrictive, even if the reason is national security. It's also interesting how technology has become such a personal space. TikTok isn't just an app, it's where people express themselves, build careers, and connect with others globally. So banning it feels like more than just losing an entertainment platform. It's a disruption to daily life and even livelihood for many. But on the flip side, national security is one of the few things that can override those freedoms. The government has to weigh the risks, and if they truly believe TikTok could be a backdoor for data gathering or influence, they feel justified in stepping in. Do
Yeah,
you think the government should be responsible for making these choices, or should it be up to individuals to manage their own digital privacy?
I think that's a very good question. And there is a balance, because sometimes there is definitely a case to be said about the government stepping in and helping its citizens and doing what it knows best, because it leads and it knows what the citizenry needs. And then there's other times when, especially in America, people just value individual freedom, and they, dissing on the government is kind of a national pastime, and they just enjoy doing whatever they want.
You're absolutely right. In America, there's always been this push and pull between trusting the government to protect its citizens and the deep rooted belief in personal freedom and skepticism of authority. People generally want the government to step in when there's a clear and present danger, like national defense or public health. But when it comes to something like social media, it feels more personal, like an infringement on their lifestyle. On top of that, the way people perceive the government's motivations plays a big role. If they trust the government's reasoning and believe the ban is truly for their safety, they might accept it. But if they see it as political posturing or unnecessary interference, they're going to resist hard. And
That's
with something
very
like TikTok, which is so ingrained in daily life, asking people to just stop using it feels unrealistic. But the tricky part is that not everyone fully understands the potential risks of data security. Most people aren't thinking about where their data goes. They just want to watch videos and have fun. So, should it be the government's job to protect people from unseen risks, even if it's unpopular? Or should people be left to take their chances?
it's really a balancing act, and I think that it might behoove the whole all the players involved between the government and the people to see it as a balancing act and to see like, okay, maybe there's some sort of I'm not sure what the right word is. It's not sliding scale, but like some sort of you know, slowly ease it in, some sort of easement, like, okay, we don't protect everything in this situation. Because like you take minors, for example. Yeah, I could see some argument that the government should, I mean, they already do protect minors by making things illegal for minors, like minors can't drink, minors can't smoke, etc. So it's absolutely the case that the government does step in. It's just the question of how much power or how much deference should the population give to the government, and how much do we trust the government, and how good of a government of a job will the government actually do? I want to keep going, and I want to talk about, so how long do we think this ban is going to hold up, and what is the history of banning sort of social media platforms or things like that in America? How has that gone over when the government tries to ban technology, and how much longer could we expect this ban will last? Because I know that when you log into TikTok, it says it's banned, and they're hoping to work with President Donald Trump to lift the bans in a timely manner.
You're touching on a really important aspect: the balancing act between government intervention and personal freedom. It's a tricky dance, and easing into regulations rather than an outright ban might be a more acceptable approach for both sides. The idea of protecting minors, for example, is widely accepted because it's a clear cut case of vulnerability. But when it comes to adults using social media, it becomes more about personal responsibility versus state control. Now, looking at the history of tech bans in America, we've seen attempts before, but they've rarely stuck. The government previously tried to ban Huawei and WeChat, citing similar national security concerns. Huawei got heavily restricted in government contracts, but regular consumers can still use their products in some capacity. WeChat, on the other hand, was set to be banned, but the courts blocked it, arguing it infringed on free speech and economic interests. This suggests that TikTok might have a decent shot at challenging the ban legally, especially with its massive user base and economic impact. As for how long this TikTok ban might last, if history is any guide, it could face delays and legal battles for years. Companies like ByteDance have the resources to fight back, and public pushback could add more pressure. Courts tend to lean towards free speech arguments, so unless the government can provide solid evidence of a direct national security threat, it's possible the ban might be overturned or watered down into stricter regulations rather than a full ban. What's interesting is how TikTok itself is handling it. By showing users those messages about working with the government, they're positioning themselves as cooperative, which might help their case. Do you think people are going to rally behind TikTok, or will they move on to the next big platform if the ban sticks?
Well, I don't think the ban's going to stick, number one. And I don't think that people will adjust quickly unless because there's been multiple times when there have been multiple social media platforms that are all about the same and only one wins out when others don't, or all the competition is essentially very similar, but people just like one and they stick to that one, and then that one grows a user base, and then it's hard to see people leave. It's like going from YouTube to Rumble, or Twitter to Truth Social, or Gab, or whatever other similar threads. I don't know, like whatever similar. And I mean, there are different niches, and people use different social media platforms for different things. But as a general principle, I think people like to stick to what they know, and once they like something, like we've already touched on, they don't want to leave it too easily. But anyways, thank you so much for weighing in on your thoughts and opinions about the ban today, ChatGPT. And yeah, I hope that we can talk about this more. And yeah, we'll see. Time will tell about the ban.
You're spot on. People tend to stick to what they know, and social media platforms thrive on familiarity and established communities. Even when alternatives pop up, they rarely gain enough traction to pull people away from the dominant platform. TikTok's massive cultural influence makes it even harder for competitors to take over quickly. And yeah, time will definitely tell how this all plays out. Thanks for the chat. Always happy to dive into these topics with you. Looking forward to our next talk.